Hi everybody, my name is Marcus and you're watching the Reef Nerd YouTube channel. So in the last video I showed you a little bit about how we moved this tank into my new home, but I didn't actually go into great detail about the tank itself, the fish and the coral, and all the equipment in its current state. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to give you an in-depth, close-up look at all the fish, all the coral, and all of the equipment underneath the tank as it is today, which is by no means my perfect setup yet, but well on its way to becoming worthy of being my dream reef tank once again. But all said and done, I think it's in a pretty good state overall, and I hope to show you some of that today, so come along for the ride. First up, I got asked a lot if I used any specific products while I was moving the tank, or trying to prevent a crash or having to recycle it as a result of tearing it down and setting it back up again, and the answer is absolutely I did. I used quite a lot of Life Biofill and NP Pro from Aquaforest. I also used some really large bottles of Dr. Tim's One and Only. I don't actually have those bottles anymore. I threw them out after I emptied them. Sorry for that, but I'll put a picture up on the screen. The reason for those is I run the Life Biofill in this reactor here. You can see that the reactor is full of it. And that's a live media that has living bacteria in it. Very similar to your ceramic blocks or biomedia or even your live rock, but it's specifically farmed by Aquaforest with the exact bacteria responsible for the cycle, and it comes ready to go and live out of the bag. You'll note it's moist. So I replaced a lot of that and used a lot of that throughout the first couple of days to make sure that there was going to be no ammonia spike. And Dr. Tim's One and Only is also a bacteria kickstarter as well. It's a culture full of live bacteria, and I poured those bottles directly into the tank immediately after we refilled it. NP Pro is a liquid polymer. Basically what that means is it's food for bacteria. If you're adding all these bacteria supplements like the Life Biofill or Dr. Tim's One and Only, you also want to make sure that that bacteria is well fed. Now, in my case, I think I probably could have gotten away without this because I had the fish and coral and live rock, which would have already had a lot of, I guess, waste coming off it, like fish poop, basically, and organic matter decomposing on the live rock. But just in case, I did dose some of this as well, and continue to do so to make sure that the bacteria is well fed. While we're down here in the sump, let's go through what I've got hooked up. Starting here, we've got my Aqualogic temperature controller. That's my essentially thermostat that turns on and off my titanium heaters. The two heaters that I'm running are these two 300 watt Shago heaters that are hooked up to it. I strongly recommend titanium heaters over the glass variety. They're just bulletproof. There's no chance of them breaking due to accidentally dropping them or smashing them and having to deal with broken glass in your sump. And they, in my experience, last a lot longer than the glass ones, which tend to leak and corrode and die. So yeah, go with titanium heaters if you can afford it. My main return pump, with the orange impeller there, is the Abyss A200, which is, it's a rock star of pumps. It's the top of the line, super expensive. I'm running it at about 50% of its max capacity, and it's driving my entire manifold and dual returns and the UV and a number of media reactors all simultaneously without even breaking a sweat. It's a very expensive pump though, so there are definitely more affordable options, and this one is certainly overkill for my tank, but yeah, I love it because it's silent and it's probably going to run for 20 or 30 years with minimal maintenance and have absolutely no issues at all. This rat's nest of cables sitting on the top here is all part of my Smart ATO RORO Controller, which is what would normally activate a solenoid valve to enable the flow of RODI into this chamber to refill it based on some sensors that are behind this media reactor. You can see one of them just there. That green thing is the low sensor, and behind the media reactor there's another one which is the high sensor. So that will refill my RO chamber when the level gets low. It fills it back up, which is much better than just one that tops it up constantly and keeps it full all the time, because it's less strenuous on your RODI system. The reason why it's a big rat's nest of cables right now and not hooked up is because I don't have RODI run or plumbed into the tank yet. The tank is sitting here in my living room, and my RODI system is through here in the laundry, currently just temporarily set up like this. It's all in there, which while this is probably the final destination of where I want my RODI system to be set up off the tap here in this laundry, I'm going to have to plumb RODI line up through the walls and the ceiling and down this wall, and then come out down there somewhere. And that's a job that I just haven't gotten to yet. So for now, I'm manually filling this up with jugs, which isn't ideal, and that's why this is not plugged in and all the cables just sitting there for now. Moving on, you can see these 4 dosing lines here. This is my trace elements. Each of the 4 bottles of the Aquaforest component system, sorry, 3 bottles of the Aquaforest component system, component A, B, and C, and that's the trace elements that I'm running right now. That's a complete comprehensive trace element system. I've only just recently switched to it because Reef Anabolics is no longer available at my LFS, so I've swapped from Reef Anabolics to Aquaforest's trace system. I'll do a complete review on it later once I've been running it for a bit more time. The 4th line is the waste line from my Pacific Sun Core 7. After it runs a test, in here the waste line gets pumped back into the tank through the 4th line of those orange cables there. Obviously here we have my skimmer, and you can see it's doing a pretty good job. It's the MaxSpect Aqua Aero Duo, I think is the name of it. It's been really good. It's the best skimmer I've ever owned by far, and I would strongly recommend it. It's quiet, and I love the mechanism on the neck to remove the cup. You just pull that around like that and do the same on the one on the back, and then the cup can be lifted and pulled out. You only need like a centimeter of clearance to get it in and out, which is really, really good for me because I don't have a lot of clearance there. It also has this float valve in a lid, which turns off the skimmer to prevent overflowing if for any reason it was getting that full. You've also got this line here, which I could hook up if I wanted to, like there, which is a drain line for the cup. So if I was going away for a really long period of time or something, I could just put a bucket in front of the tank and have that feed into the bucket to give me more reservoir for the skimmate. Probably a bucket with a lid unless I want to stink up the living room. This is my algae scrubber, custom made by Eric from Hamali, along with the whole sump, which is a custom Hamali sump with the Reef Nerd logo on it, as you can see there. And he built into it this algae scrubber, which, as you can see, is growing algae really, really, really well. I've done a heap of content on algae scrubbers in the past on my channel, so if you're interested in algae scrubbers, go check out some of my past videos on the topic. I strongly recommend them. I'm a firm believer in algae scrubbers, and it's a fundamental aspect of my entire philosophy of reefing, and I still stand by that. So yeah, the algae scrubber is really important for me and runs really, really well. Underneath the algae scrubber, I have all of this biomedia, and you can see there's heaps of it in there, this ceramic spiral style biomedia from Mountain Tree. They've sponsored me in the past by providing me a lot of this media for free, so that's why I run it, but I really like it and I've had really good results from it. I like the blocks. I've had them in my tank for over 2 years now, and they haven't been crumbling or deteriorating in any way. A couple of times I've taken one of the blocks out and scrubbed it just to see how well it's holding together, and they are rock solid. And that's more than I can say for some of the other blocks that I've run in the past, which have tended to crumble and break down. So yeah, strongly recommend. And if you like this style of ceramic media rather than the big square blocks. They come in two sizes, these ones here and these really big ones as well, which I've got two of them lying flat in there as well. The idea of having all the spirals and holes and lines in them is to better allow water flow through the media. Next up, we have my roller mat, and as you can see, it's doing a really good job. This is the filthy side and this is the clean side, and you can see that it comes down the back along the bottom, which is where all the grating is, and then up the top. This roller mat is built again by Eric from Hamali and is integrated into the Sump. And yeah, it's been really, really good. It's so much better than filter socks. I strongly recommend people, if you're currently running filter socks and you have the ability to retrofit some kind of a roller mat, there's lots of different good options on the market now. A lot of different brands are offering roller mats, so give one a go. They're really low maintenance. You know, maybe once or twice every 6 months, you replace a roll, and that's all you have to do. Let's manually move it. There we go. Now it does move automatically, but I just push that button to manually move it, and you can see the water level dropping because I've exposed some fresh roll, which then allows the water to flow through it with less restriction. But there's a float in there, you can just see here, that does that automatically when the water level gets high. That's how roller mats work. Moving to the next part of my sump, we can see my Vast Marine K1 Calcwasser stirrer. So this has got Calcwasser powder in the bottom being stirred constantly into a slurry, and my ATO actually pumps through this reactor. So all the water that evaporates out of my tank as it's topped off is pumped through this reactor and then into the sump. So 100% of my auto top off is Calcwasser slurry. I built this reactor myself because Vast Marine sells DIY kits, which are a little bit cheaper than the fully assembled ones. And it was really easy and a little bit of fun. So yeah, if you're in the market for a Calcwasser reactor or Calcwasser stirrer, I like this one, it's good. This black box in front of it with the double-sided tape that's not so sticky anymore, I probably need a better mounting mechanism. It's meant to be mounted on the roof like that, is the dosing pump that's feeding it. So that's my ATO pump, basically. And you can see back there the main gate valve on my plumbing. So if I need to increase or decrease the flow on my return line, that's the valve that I use to do it. Back here, we've got a resin reactor that I currently have GFO in. Sorry, I can't get it to focus. Then we have the CO2 bottle for my calcium reactor. And in the front here, we have my calcium reactor. And the media has dissolved that much since I last topped it up, which was probably about 3 or 4 months ago at this point. So yeah, it's really churning through the media, which is good, because that means it's doing its job and feeding alkalinity and calcium and maybe some other elements into the tank. This particular calcium reactor is the Calc Feeder AC Mini by Pacific Sun. I like this one because it has an optical sensor. You can see just there, that's the optical sensor for measuring the amount of CO2 in the reactor. So you don't need to set a bubble rate or have any other fine-grained control over your CO2 flow. You just basically get it in the approximate ballpark, and then the reactor controller, which has its own peristaltic dosing pump built into it, does all the work by opening and closing, there we go, my double-sided tape failed again. Does all the work by opening and closing a solenoid valve to inject or not CO2 into the reactor and keep it perfectly stable at a set level. So it's a different philosophy to calcium reactor than most, but it's one that I really like because it makes one of the variables of a calcium reactor completely constant, and therefore the only thing you need to worry about is the dosing rate of effluent, which is done on this touch screen here with an up and a down arrow, and you can see it's running at 10.9% right now, or just over 1 litre an hour is the dosing rate that I have it set to. And because that controller has a little antenna on it on the bottom there, it's connected to my Wi-Fi, it can talk to the Core 7. So based on an alkalinity test done in the KH lab, the Core 7 will then tell the calc feeder to increase or decrease its dosing according to the needs of my tank. So that's really, really cool. I've expanded my calcium reactor recently by adding this extra reactor here called the DC1, or the degassing column. That's just an extra reactor that sits after the main calcium reactor and has more media in it. And it just further raises the pH of the effluent, so it has less of an impact on the tank. While we're over here, you can see there's the controller for the Abiz A200. There's the controller for the Skimmer. This is the controller for my two main gyres, which are XF330s, I think. Yeah, XF350s. I've got two of them here. And I have an additional 4, 1 and 2 on the back of my tank. 3 and 4 are meant to be here and here on either side of the weir, but they're not currently plugged in at the moment for no other reason than I'm lazy and haven't gotten around to it yet. But for those extra 4 gyres, I have them running off the Hydros wave engine controller, which is really cool because that's running 4 gyres out of 1 controller, which would ordinarily require 2 more of these. This has some cool features and a cool app for controlling them and turning them on and off and programming them. And yeah, it's a really cool system. The wave engine system is a whole ecosystem, and there's a lot more you can do with it than what I'm currently doing with it. But yeah, it's a cool piece of kit. You'll also notice that I have this great big lithium battery sitting right here. This was something that Sam Parker built for me. So I'm sure you know Sam Parker from Parker's Reef, YouTuber extraordinaire. Go check out his channel. But he makes these and sells them as complete systems for battery backup for basically any 12 volt, or in some cases, I think even 240 volt equipment on your tank. Now, currently, the only thing I have hooked up to this is the controller for my 2 main gyres. That's this controller here. So that's that gyre there and the one on the other side of the tank over there. So in the event of a power out, those 2 gyres would run off this battery for probably well over 24 hours, a really long time. I haven't tested it for that long, but I know it will not crack a sweat for running those gyres for hours and hours and hours and hours without any power. If we were to have a total blackout. And that's all I need to keep the water moving and oxygenated and prevent a total crash on the system. I'm planning to replace these big alligator plugs with just something a little bit more streamlined and slim, so that this is not as pokey-uppy as it is right now. But the actual brains of the operation behind the battery is back here. It's this grey box here. Essentially, my original gyre controllers are plugged in one side and the power supplies are plugged in the other side. And that's also what then connects the battery in the middle of it and what causes it to fail over to the battery in the event of a power out. If you want to know more about those, check out Sam's channel because he sells them and makes them custom for whatever needs you have, whatever equipment you have. While we're back here, you can see, how about that cable management, huh? Oh yeah. I told myself that I'd do a really good job of the cable management when we moved the tank and set it up here. I lied. I'm sure it will get better with the healing of time. Probably not. Let's have a look on top of the tank. So for now, my light mount hood thing is still not ready. It's at the shop being reconstructed and changed and modified and made ready for this house. So in the meantime, it's I've only got 2 of the 3 panels mounted and the rest of it's all missing, all the doors and all the extra stuff. And so there's 2 Kessel A360Xs mounted there, and I've got 1 more mounted here. These 2 have narrow beam reflectors on them because they're up quite high. This one doesn't have the narrow beam reflector because it's quite low. And then in the middle, I've got 2 Reef Bright strips. And and those are mounted with a DeWalt impact drill case. I found that the regular drill case isn't quite the right height, so if you want to replicate my mounting system, I definitely recommend the DeWalt impact drill case is the correct height, and 2 spare roller mat rolls. Yep, so that's a real high quality lighting system that I've got running at the moment, but it is temporary. We'll get it fixed and set up properly once the hood is all ready and everything like that, as well as all the perfectly safe power setup that I have here and here. But anyway, enough about the equipment. Let's look at the fish and the coral and the tank itself and see how it's going right now. I guess we start from this side. We can see this big green torch and this bright green hammer have been in my tank for absolutely years and are still loving life and doing really well through the move. The hammer was up a little higher, but it's currently just sitting in the sand because I haven't glued it back on the rock since the move. And you can see in there's a pink spot goby, loving life. My big scrolling red Monty cap all broke apart, but I just chucked it back in the general area of where it was, and pretty soon it will be scrolling and looking nice again. At the rate it grows in my tank, I'm really not worried about breaking red Monty cap. You'll see I've got bits of it absolutely everywhere. There's some back here, there's some of it over here, there's more of it back, like there's some there, there's heaps of it back behind there, there's a huge bit back there. I've got heaps of it, so yep, it'll get back to its former glory pretty soon. You can also see there's some bits of green in there too, which might give them a chance to grow out some more. This whole area is looking a bit sparse because, yeah, the hammer fell down and the torch fell down, and I need to glue them back up in there. We'll get there. Moving up, we've got some birds' nests. This one was massively shadowed, where it used to be having this big bird's nest above it. So I broke it off and repositioned it a bit, and I'm hoping it will grow out and bush out again now that it's getting more light, because there's a lot of dead skeleton in there where it was all 100% shadowed in its previous position, which wasn't really visible in the past, but certainly is right now. Or I might just end up removing that, fragging it back massively and just gluing the live bits back down. We'll see what happens. This huge bird's nest is, well, it's huge. Haven't quite decided whether I'm going to break it apart or leave it as is, but for now it's looking good in the tank. It gives good scale to this side of the tank alongside this huge piece of Dallas as well. So we'll leave it as is, but yeah, it does cause a lot of shadowing. So once the lighting is all in properly and at their correct heights and that, I'm going to see where the shadowing actually is, and if we may correct the shadowing by adding more light, or we may correct the shadowing by hacking this back. Dallas is looking really, really good and growing crazy. You can see I've got good polyp extension. I use Dallas as a bit of a canary coral in my tank. If the Dallas has good polyp extension, things are usually going pretty well. If the Dallas has no polyp extension, something is definitely wrong. Down here we've got red Digi, which is, it kind of grayed out a bit through the move, but it's starting to get its color back, which is a good sign now. My home wrecker there and Walt Disney, or the other way around, Walt Disney and home wrecker. Unfortunately, the home wrecker is not looking the best. It's just this little nub here. The main branch of it died, and I had to frag it off to prevent the rest of it suffering tissue necrosis. So hopefully it comes back. I'm trying to recover it from that little blob. We've got more Walt Disney there and more Walt Disney here, and you can see half of this colony died as well, unfortunately. So we did have some losses during the move. I think they were exposed to cold air for too long, and it kind of shocked them, unfortunately. But there's enough living to recover, so it's not a total loss. We'll get it back to where it was. This bonsai coral here is looking great, and I forget what this one is called. I got it from Ollie at Reflections, so he might know. But yeah, it's really taking off with the bright green polyps and the purple tips. I'm really liking the look of it. This smooth skin acro here was a wild colony that I got from Reef Galleria. It's not really showing up color-wise right now, but it's a really cool teal blue that's actually quite bright, and on the camera it doesn't really pick it up that well. Pink bird's nest, more pink bird's nest here, some scollies. This xenia I have to deal with, this pulsing xenia, I'm going to have to cull it a bit. It's starting to spread to a few too many places in the tank. Got my cool fungia plate here and 2 more of them there. This big deshi and another big green one there with a hammer then behind it, more green Monty cap. I got 2 Montiporas here. These are Phoenix and Cherry Tree. This coral is this purpley pink one. I forget the name of it, but man, it's looking really good. We've got red polyp Dallas growing here, and PC Rainbow is this one here. Various Millipora across here. Some of them in particular lost a lot of color during the move, so I'm hoping their color comes back, because right now they all look a bit samey, but they previously were all different colors, and hopefully we can get that color back into them soon. Got some more SPS back here, a really nice toxic green Stylopora, I think. I might have that wrong, and there's a blue one underneath it. I've got more of it here, and this really, really nice deshi, a trachea, another trachea, and yeah, some candy cane and other corals through here. Big leather in the back, some more stuff on my frag rack. I need to get rid of that xenia, and some more on this frag rack up in here too. So that's kind of the coral tour. You see everything's kind of looking not 100%, but overall it's looking pretty good. As far as the fish go, we've got Melanaris wrasse there, big blue tang, yellow tang. There's a 6-line wrasse who just zoomed away somewhere. There's a Disparanthia. There's one clownfish, and the other clownfish is up there. We saw the pink spot goby just here. There is a mandarin in there somewhere, but I can't see him at this moment. And there's a Bengai cardinal in here somewhere as well. Oh, actually there's a royal grammar right there. He's just come out. He's a really big royal grammar. He's looking absolutely fantastic. And there is a Bengai cardinal in here somewhere as well, but at this moment I can't see him. My gold torch is looking good. Yeah, so overall, that's the state of the tank. If you've got any questions around what the setup is doing right now, or what I'm intending to do in the future, let me know. I've still got a lot of equipment that I need to set up, and the main thing that I still need to do that's on really high on my to-do list is fix my UV, because right now you can see there's no flow going through it. It's at 0 liters an hour. This whole part of the manifold is turned off, and that's because at some point during the move, this fitting here was damaged somehow, and it leaks from here. So I'm going to need to take that section off and repair it or replace it, which is a bit of a pain, but that's why I have this modular plumbing with valves everywhere and unions everywhere. I will be able to remove it, take it out, and fix it. I'm just psyching myself up to doing it. I'll make a video out of it, but it'll be a bit of a job to do it. So yeah, for now the UV is not running, unfortunately. I also have on my to-do list cleaning up the fish crap, and as you can see, I have quite a lot of it still in boxes and tubs and on the floor and just lying around. There is so much fish crap that I still have to deal with. I mean, there's one of my gyres that's meant to be on the tank. I haven't set it up yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. But yep, such is the fun of moving house. But anyway,